Mechel. We have the beautiful April Starks and the beautiful Martina Young here at the table. Come on in, have a seat right here as we discuss relevant conversations, relevant topics that pertain that we're able to change your mindset and move forward. This series, I am so excited about this series. It is real and it is relevant to what we are dealing with today. The topic of race. We're just going to dive right on into it. And today we're going to talk about race. We're going to break it down, the actual word race, recognizing African Americans' cultural experiences. And we have an experience that has been brought to the light right now in 2020. 2020 has been the year of clear vision. And so things have been taken away so that our experiences can be seen nationwide, worldwide. And so Martina, April, and myself, we're going to delve on into that conversation. And so April and Martina, welcome yourselves. You all can come on in. And so this conversation is one that, some people try to not have, is something that race is, one of those topics, on the workplace, just in general, that people really try not to have. And so I really feel that it is something that we have to be intentional about. We have to have those conversations. And so as African American women, we have our own conversations that need to be had. And so our cultural experiences are different, just like with any culture. We all have our own, but it seems like the African Americans, Black people, period, we don't have the voice. Like when we express that this is how we are feeling, this is what we experience, people want us to either deny our experiences. They don't want to recognize it as real. And it is real. Our feelings matter. Our experiences matter. And so have you all had any experiences that you have in general as Black women, that pertaining to our culture, our hair, that's one. That our natural hair, that's one. Just our dialogue, our dialect, I should say. Those are things in the workplace that I remember, and I'm just going to be very honest, transparent. My mom, when she would talk on the phone, and I would say, "You talk white when you get on the phone," but she would just use she would have that professional conversation, that professional dialogue. And so we as African Americans, we have to stop recognizing that, or saying that something is white or Black. Just because someone talks a certain way or acts a certain way, we have to take that in and look at ourselves as well. Mm-hmm. And so come on into the conversation. This is not just me talking. So how do you all feel as far as your cultural experiences? Do you all feel that, that it is that we have an isolated, experience that is different from other cultures, that we are sometimes denied that our experiences are even real, that's something that, that's something that you all go through. It's not real unless, someone else validates that we are going through it, like with everything with Breonna Taylor and, the George Floyd. We could not, all the NBA basketball games, everything was taken away from us. And then the light was shined. But then other cultures, other races recognized that something that has been going on for centuries. This is not a new thing. No. This has been going on for centuries. But because other races, other cultures have recognized it, now it's real. And so, Do you all feel that that is something that's even valid? I mean, that's how I feel, but how do you all feel?
I think definitely valid. And by the way, you are a great host, so that's why we weren't jumping in. You was engaging
You
us.
was just listening.
Yes, we were too. We were stuck because it was a good, laying the foundation for the discussion, which is, like you said, a very valid discussion, and hopefully people who are tuning in will start to recognize some of their past experiences. As you were talking, my mind just started to go back to some of my first encounters that maybe I had that realized, that I was different, or that you was the minority, as we say, that you're a minority group. Even throughout, I think about how when busing took place for like my parents, my aunts and uncles actually just shared with us some experience they encountered with busing in the 70s. I mean, what they had to encounter. When I got to school in the 80s or so, late 80s, I still saw the difference. Like, I had to take 2 buses to get to Central High School. And it's just interesting. So I went because I lived in the South End, so by Iroquois Park. So I would get on a bus at almost 6 o'clock in the morning to then be driven to Male High School, which we know how all those different divisions go, as far as maybe certain people feeling like certain schools are elitist, are better than other schools. You know how that goes. That gets in so many different divisions.
Mm-hmm.
But we got dropped off at Male to then get on another bus to just take up. And that's when Male High School was downtown, for people who live in Louisville that may be watching this. Not when it was way out now on Preston. It was when it was downtown. So just go to Central, there's probably 10 blocks.
Yeah.
10 blocks. So I'm on a bus for almost 2 hours and 2 different buses to get to my school. And I found that very strange at the time. But I see how that even is a part of our cultural experience, in the fact that we have to be shuffled around and displaced and make certain adjustments that take a 2-hour trip.
Right.
To get, to a school, because your parent can't make you a car rider. That my mom could not take me every day to Central, which will probably been a 20-minute trip, maybe, for me being on a 2-hour trip for the bus. So those are some of our experiences that people don't realize, that we always have to make adjustments. And I think that's why people really get upset when things heighten, and they don't understand why we're frustrated. They don't understand, why we get angry or upset. Is because it seems like we have to make adjustments that extend us further than our counterparts and other individuals of other races. So
Yes. Yeah. That's a great example. I remember, I lived in elementary school. I grew up in West Louisville, West End. My mom still lives down in the West End, for those who live in Louisville, who are watching this, and lived right across the street from an elementary school. Like, literally, I can walk from my porch to across the street to elementary school. But I got bused to Chenoweth Elementary School, which is Zorn Avenue. And so, that busing situation, I could not get the education within my own neighborhood, had to, be bused. I didn't have to catch 2 buses, but in my neighborhood, growing up in a predominantly Black neighborhood, I never really had experiences with other cultures, until I was bused out of my neighborhood. And so, we had, in my neighborhood growing up, in the 80s, we had grocery store, couple of blocks, from my house, the hardware store, couple of blocks from my house. everything was within my neighborhood. We never really had to go out of the West End, but fast forward to today, there's nothing in the West End. Those things that were there when I grew up, they're no longer there, because of the gentrification, those, buildings, people, move out of the neighborhood, and, people have to travel outside of the neighborhood. So not only did our education, we had to go outside of our neighborhood for education. Now we have to go outside of the neighborhood just for our livelihood. Those things that used to be in the Black neighborhoods are no longer there. And so that is a great point that you bring up with busing and those experiences that we had to endure. And so, Martina, would you
I
like
was
to?
gonna say, yeah, because for me, I still, well, I have lived. I grew up in the West End, which, as you mentioned, is the predominantly Black neighborhoods. Moved out and live again in the West End, and in some cases, it is those things are there. It's just the quality is different. And for me, I think sometimes people don't realize. That the inequity that still exists. And if you, for example, we have a Kroger's in the West End,
Yeah.
but when you go to that Kroger's, it is not the same as any of the others in another neighborhood. I mean, things as simple as everyday things that people may take for granted. I try to eat avocado a week. I go to the Kroger's in the heart of the West End, and there's a small selection of them, and they're all basically like old, and you can tell that like literally they're old. One day I was there, I started to take a picture around of that Kroger's and post it and say, where else does a Kroger's look like this? People like don't realize that you can have the same store and all of the things in the West End look different, even going to schools. So in some cases, like for children to be bused out of the West End, it shouldn't be this way. But oftentimes they have they're offered a difference in education, and that the fact that there is inequality, that schools are different, that stores are different, that homes are different. Even as simple as I have some pictures of one day I had been out to the east end of Louisville doing something, and the grass along the expressway, I mean, it was taken care of, it looked nice. And then when I get off of the expressway to get to my house, the grass is so high off of the side of the expressway that at times it's hard to see over it, and it shouldn't be that way. And so I think at times people don't realize there are some that want to deny that there's any problems with inequality, that there's no problems with that we're just all together as this wonderful melting pot. But if people would like open their eyes to see, or even just open their mind to consider, then they would see, that there are some gaps that need to be addressed. I mean, and when I talk about, there was a time for me that I was working in schools in the East End and then would come to a school in the West End. It should not be that the buildings are not the same. It should not be that the resources are not the same. And then you have also that at times people don't want to work in the West End. And I mean, things down as simple as it shouldn't be that I don't feel comfortable going to whatever the restaurant may be it, in the West End, that I feel like I have to go out. And honestly, right now, when I want to go to the grocery store, according to what experience I'm looking for, oftentimes I drive out further just to have more more things. And even down to, and now this is such a passionate subject for me, but even down to, there are items that are sold in the West End that are not offered at other grocery stores. And the way that this was revealed to me is I was looking for a gallon of punch for something for kids, and I was at one of the Kroger's in the East End. I said, they don't even sell that in this store. And then I was like, but in the other stores, it's plentiful. You go to the stores in the East End, and the healthy food section is multiple aisles. You come to the stores downtown, and it's minimalized. There are inequalities that have to be addressed, and people at times want to act as if there's not a difference. And the problem is that people should not have to be subjected to a different life just because of their race. And an area should not be treated differently because of, just because it's predominantly, people don't even understand that at times our gas, the cost of gasoline is higher just because of living in the West End. And at one point, I'm gonna shut up after this because it's just, I was calling about my car insurance. And I was like, why, like, what can I do? Why is my car insurance this rate? And I have a sister who lives downtown too, but she's in a different zip code than me. Mm-hmm. And so at one point, I'm like, we have the same, we're with the same company. Why is it so different? And the agent told me I needed to move out of 40211. Told me that my car insurance was higher because of me living in 40211. And I know that people say that's because there's more crime and different things that happen. But what has happened is that there has been a cycle that has been generated that has created more crime, that has created a different type of mentality. At some point, something has to be done to interrupt and change the cycle. And it's like to deny that it exists. Oh, Jesus. But anyway. It just really hits home, because when you're living it and you see it every day, it's just like we have something that needs to be addressed in every realm, in the educational realm, in the business realm, in the market realm, in the housing realm, like literally, that even to know that the effects of redlining that happened so many years, that they are still being felt because there has been a line drawn in the sand, and that those on one side have a different life, just because of that. And some people say, why? For me, most of my family, at one point, I've been in the East End and the South End, but most of my family and everything live in this area. And we just choose to, because it shouldn't be that I have to leave in order, for things to be different. But anyway. Yes.
And so, reality. It is the reality. And what I heard you say several times is the cycles, cycles, and that we have to address those cycles, and they have to be brought to the attention. And for me, I just take this all the way down to personal. When I recognize cycles in my lifestyle, in my personal life, I have to address those. Me as a Vernice Mechel, I have to address those. And so us as African Americans, we must address the cycles that we recognize within our own communities, within our own culture. And we must know that we have to be able to speak and use our voice, to bring attention to those things. We have to. And so, did we lose April? um, so, and so we have to recognize that those things have to be addressed.
Yeah.
And so those I think we have lost April. I think that she'll pop back into the conversation. Sometimes that's okay to walk away from the table and but
Here, preach.
and then come back to the table.
Literally.
We have to continue on with the conversation. And so a lot of times, when we see something, we wait for someone else to address it.
Yeah.
And we have to, I can't within myself, if someone points out and says, hey, Vernice Mechel, I see this is going on within your life, then it's up to me to address the cycle, and to use my voice to bring change within my life. And so that's what I urge. I want to use my voice within this conversation at the table to implore African Americans, implore our people to use your voice. That if you recognize something that is not right, if that's going on, a cycle that you see, then you have the right as a human, as a child of the Most High God, to recognize and to use your voice to bring change. And so a lot of times, people want to turn a blind eye to things that are going on within the neighborhood, are going on in their culture. And now is not the time to turn a blind eye. We have to use our voice. We have to bring those things to light, so that the majority will see what is going on. And so how do we bring about change? We speak on that change. We continually speak on that change until someone in the right places will be able to agree with us that there is a deficit within our community and that change can come about. And so I'm sorry. Let me step down off my.
No, it's the truth. Yeah.
This is so passionate, that we also we do need allies in this fight.
Yes.
We do. This is something that is bigger than just our culture.
Yeah.
So, but when within it, we have to speak on those things. When we recognize that there's something different, speak on it.
That's right.
Yeah. And so, in the speaking on it, in the cycles, in the things that we have to address within our culture, what other experiences? We spoke on the educational deficit. We spoke on the food deficit.
Can I add something real quick?
Yeah.
I wanted to add a couple things on those 2 points that Martina brought up and you brought up, which was excellent. I think within that cultural experience, as you stated, it's important for people to not only use their voice, which is definitely important. I think we can't do nothing about the past. We can only do something about now and the future. So that's a cycle. Well, they did this. It's been like this since 75. It's been like this since 80. That becomes a cycle. No. Okay, yes, it was like that, and it's maybe been like that, but what are we going to do in 2020 and beyond to use our voices, but then mobilize our voices? Because it's not enough for Martina to go to the grocery store and say, oh, they don't have avocados here. And she's the only one that buys avocados. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I used to work for Kroger, so I can speak on this. In certain stores, in management, just bottom line, if you have certain items that are not being purchased, we take them out the store. And then there may be 2, or let's just say 5 customers that say, you all don't have that anymore. What happened? We were losing money. I mean, we got to realize it's big business too.
Yeah.
So if they recognize that certain things are not being sold, then they're not going to put them in the store. They take them out. And more specifically, that Kroger on 28th Street, my mom worked there for like 22 years. So her experience, we could probably invite her in and she could tell us a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
But I think and she could give some good insight on even how, when I have my personal conversations with her, she didn't want me to even work there when I first started and went there after school. But she was like, retail's hard, don't do it or whatever. But just being there, the customer service levels, I think us getting pride back in our communities, we need to hit that subject. People north start getting pride back into the community. And I think because people did get kind of bust out to back to school and education, you get exposure probably to other realms. And then you start looking at your community like, well, out there, they got this. We don't have that. No, we can have it. Don't let that beat you down. Let's begin to mobilize these voices.
Yes.
And having two voices over here, two voices over here. No, pull the voices together and say, no, we want great produce in our community. That we're not labeled as just people that eat junk food.
Right.
That's good. Yeah.
So those are conversations the community needs to have. And then that's how we gain allies. But when they see us divided and it's like 50 different voices, they looking like they don't even know what they want. One person want avocado, one person that forget avocados, give me Doritos. So it's like you mobilize, then you have your plan to go pull allies and say, look, this is what we've seen. And we've seen it multiple times. We have statistics. We have facts right here. We need you to come in and make a difference. And we're going to help, push that. We're going to help to make our young people who are Vernice knows this because she worked at that Kroger. Look, when we were baggers, we were good baggers. We weren't baggers that was
excellent.
We wasn't throwing your bleach in. We weren't throwing your bleach in with your meat. Come on.
Yeah.
So it's simple stuff like that elevates. But I think it's part of like pride in the community. So then people say, wait a minute, this is my Kroger. Look, if I work here, it's gonna be on point. If I see an elderly lady walking to her car, I'm gonna help her to her car. Pride, just getting that back, realizing we have the power to do that. The outside people can't honestly do it. They can ally, which I like that word. They can ally with you. But at the end of the day, they're going back home to their respective place. Right. So we got to make sure that in our communities, we're owning that to make sure that we're making a difference and setting a standard of and that goes for anywhere. It's not just in the West End. On my street, we have a lot of elderly people that live on our street. We take care of each other, look out for people. There's a few of them that have gone on to be with the Lord, and different people have moved in. So we just had a new neighbor move in. And honestly, about 4 neighbors, we mobilized our voice because this neighbor is doing some stuff that we like, wait a minute. This don't happen on this street. So about 4 that we gonna mobilize our voice, and you could go talk to the person and just not being rude, not how can we help you, how can we be of assistance, things like that to help let that person know we have pride on our little community street right here, and invite them in to some things. So I think that's for any and every community that has to be important. And reiterating, this is what we stand for. Because growing up on 36 in Dale Park, my grandparent, and then Lindale, when me and my mom moved to that apartment on Lindale, we had, it was just pride in the community. People they looked out for each other. You better not drop your candy paper or you drink. That would turn you up. Pick it up. And it wasn't even in front of their house, but they would call you out because they was like, this is our community. This is our community. And we don't do that here.
Yeah.
We need to hopefully rebuild that. And this is a good time to do that because the spotlight is shining on recognizing African-American cultural experiences. And so we have to recognize it first as a community, as a race. And then we can then penetrate to other people to say, this is what we stand for. So I think that is important to point out. I want to mention that. And I thought that was good what you said about the insurance, Martina, because when we moved to Indiana, I was like, glory, because our insurance went down. It went down. We was so hype about it, right? And the same thing, that's what the agent said. They have these algorithms that they utilize. Unfortunately, maybe there needs to be some adjustments on that. There's some people who could probably lobby for certain changes in regards to that. But when it's high risk area where they're paying, it's back to big business. If cars are getting brought and they keep paying all these policies for, jack cars or broken cars or wrecked car, or look, hit and runs, then those agents are gonna say, man, in this area, unfortunately, we got to take this up because we losing money. We are getting took. So just for the business aspect, unfortunately, makes changes to certain things. But once again, if we get certain things changed in the community, we be like, we don't do it here. Come on, we get it together.
You talking about the mobilization makes me think about like really getting to the root of it. And, as you said, like literally it with the cycle, we have to get to the root of the cycle, and getting to the root of the cycle and bringing about change does start with us being mobilized and us coming together. People will look at, we have in the midst of the fight for change, we really do have to be careful that we don't like look at, well, I'm doing this and you're not doing this, so you're not doing anything, and really that mobilization comes in various ways and avenues. Like for me, leaving a business, leaving a career that was financially more prosperous to working in a school in our urban area in the West End, for me, has been an opportunity to mobilize and try to, like pour into children while they're at a younger age about expanding our mentality, because a lot of it does come with like breaking that cycle, and that change comes from exposure to something different. That change comes from us having a different mindset. Even just last week, I was at the Kroger's in Portland, and the young people that were servicing me, literally as they were taking care of my groceries, were cussing, yelling, and I stopped them and I said, you all never know who is before you. Do not act that way. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like you said, that something has to change within us. It's not just, and they were looking at me like, oh Lord, but I said, you all need to stop that. That is not, that is not the way that you should be conducting yourself here. You know what I'm saying? So like literally that our mindset has to change, that we just accept, just accept whatever, that we just look at it and think that this is our reality and that we just have to take it. No, we can make change. We can
make change
in our community. We can, like even I have some male neighbors that really do, they watch out for me. You know what I mean? At one point they were cutting the grass in my front yard for me and different things. Like, let us within the community work to address the root of it, to mobilize. As you said, we need allies, but also recognizing, okay, what can we do in this to make that differently? What do we need to do to change our perspective? What do we need to do? Stop. I mean, like, I shouldn't have to go in my front yard and pick up trash where you've thrown trash in my yard while you were walking by. Let's change our mentality, because really, a lot of times what we see influences our behavior. So let's change that. You know what I mean? Like, let us do some work within to uproot, because as you mentioned, yes, there needs to be acknowledgement that there is an issue. There needs to be acknowledgement that we do have some areas that we need to address. But after we acknowledge it, let me not just keep going around the mountain, but actually what can we do to bring about change, and as there's opportunities to mobilize, to use our voice, because in us using our voice, we do that in different ways. Now, if you're only using your voice to complain, if you're only using your voice to talk about what the problem is, one of the things that God has ministered to me about is like, don't be so consumed by the problem that you become a part of the problem. Recognize the problem, and then what, Lord, what do you want me to do? What role can I take in addressing this problem? What can I do? You know what I mean? To bring about a change in it. And each of us has a different role to play. We need to find out what lane we are to drive in this situation. What lane am I to mobilize in to make a difference, and then getting there and do it. And while I'm in my lane addressing, I can't tell everybody else, well, you know what? You need to resign from your job and go work in the school system. No, that's what, you know what I mean? Like, everybody needs to find out what their appointment is and what God would have them to do to put their hands in the situation to make a difference. But yeah.
Yes, that's good. And I think that's why it's important too for leaders to rise up, because we have gotten a stigma in our mind that leaders are the person that, you know, is the CEO and the person that is the head of whatever, you know, that the leader is the mayor. No, the true leader is the brother and sister on that street. The true leader is that mother and father that is a part of that PTO. The true leader, you know, that is that teacher such as yourself that's able to sacrifice a portion of their livelihood that could have benefited themselves to say, I'm heeding to the call that I have been given to influence the next generation. I'm willing to give that portion up to then move into my purpose, to impact change and the future society, all of that, the rising up of leaders, and for us to take it that the leader is someone else, and that it's really within us. I've been saying this probably all this year. There's a solution in each one of us, and if you find that lane and start flowing in that, we will see something like none other in history of things that will happen and begin to transpire, and not recognizing that what I have, the solution that's in me, is not the same solution in Vernice.
Right.
And the same solution in Vernice is not the same solution in Martina. And it goes to anywhere. So I can't look, at Vernice and say, man, she's not doing this. She should be over here doing what my passion is. That's where we mess up. So then it starts division, infight, then we can't mobilize because we're wanting people to actually do what you're called to do. And if you maximize and do and rise up as the leader that you're supposed to be in your area, we all benefit. And then that's where collaboration, partnership, and all of that begins to fold in, because people are comfortable with what their purpose to do, and they're not trying to be in everybody else's lane. We'll see some stuff work. And if we can teach young people that's one thing I'm really trying to push right now. We can get, like you said, Martina, at an early age and get them to feel comfortable with, this is your piece. Master your piece. I think I don't know who wrote that poem that talked about, if you're the sweeper, be the best sweeper.
Martin Luther King, my brother.
My goodness. Be the best sweeper until you move on to other levels. But wherever you are, be the best. If you're the bagger at Kroger and that's your first job, when I say be the best bagger that they ever had, because every great leader is a great follower. And that's what this generation as well needs to begin to model and move in, because they're like, let me go to the mountain first. Well, if you haven't effectively followed someone, how do you then want people to follow you? You was late all the time. You didn't do right. You was cussing people out while you was bagging. So then when you become the manager, because when you said that about those one baggers, I was thinking about, where was the manager?
Right.
What standard? You know what I'm saying? What standard is in that store? It's all falls back on leadership. Falls back on leadership.
And I talked to him too.
No, it's good. because they should be held accountable. Leadership should be held accountable. To whom much is
Mhm.
given, much is required.
Mhm.
So people want leadership positions, but they don't want the weight that comes with it. Carry it. It's on
Mhm.
you. Get the store together.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's very point. That was that everything that you. I agree wholeheartedly, Martina. When you spoke about the root, that it was exactly where I was going with that. Because when we get back to our roots, we are a people of pride. We are a people who love our culture originally, and so we have to get back to that. Get back to the root of love and community and sharing and just having relationship with each other. We have moved from having relationship with each other. We see something all those kids are doing. No, have you talked to them?
Right.
Have you gone and just had a conversation with them? Have you gotten to know them? So relationship is very important, and we have to get back to that. Get back to that relationship. April, when you said your new neighbor who moved in, you all could have sit in your window and pointed out, everything that were doing wrong. But no, you got out, you mobilized, you filled in the gap. You gained allies within your community, within your block. So you filled in the gap. Here I go with an acronym for y'all. And you filled in the gap by gaining allies, that for the cause. You saw something, I'm going to gain allies to come on and mobilize. You said, I'm going to acknowledge my role. My role is I'm a person about relationship. And so
Mhm.
I'm going to acknowledge my role, and I'm going to mobilize my community to go over and have a conversation with them so that we can build relationship. And then you prepared a solution. That is what filling in the
That's
gap is.
good.
That we have to first gain allies. Martina, you could have put that picture on Facebook with the avocados. Who loves avocados and you live in the West End? You could mobilize your people to, this is my role. I'm acknowledging my role. I love avocados. I'm going to get everybody who loves avocados to mobilize with me and then prepare
Mhm.
a solution. And so that's what we need as we recognize the as African Americans, we recognize
Mhm.
our cultural experiences. These are our experiences. So I'm going to
And they're
gain,
real.
yeah, and they're real. They're real. And
Yeah.
allies do not have to be someone outside of our culture. We have allies. We have to remember that we are one. We have to
Yeah.
realize that we have within each other, within our culture, that we have to be allies amongst each other.
Yeah.
We are fighting for the same cause. And April, I love what you said, that we all have different leaders within ourselves.
Yeah.
So then the leader in me speaks to the leader in you, and then we are able to mobilize and fight this good fight to have others recognize our experiences. Change will come. And so we have to all do our part to fill in that gap. And
Mhm.
so this time is always so fast. It is
Oh,
so fast when we are at the table because, the conversations and the topics that we have are so relevant and real. And so we have to bring this one too. We have to wrap it up. But we always at the table, we give good food. This is a meal that you can take in. And we want to give you some leftovers from this conversation. And so that you can later, take that and throw it in the microwave of your heart and apply it and eat it in and take it in. And so I want to ask April and Martina to give their leftover from this conversation.
my
April?
leftover is gonna be you are a solution.
Yes, that's good. That's good. You are a solution. Don't look for the solution within someone else. You are the solution. And if you don't know what your solution is, pray on it.
Mhm.
Yes.
Ask God to
Yes.
deposit. and bring revelation within you,
That's
and so
right.
that you can move forward. Yes, you are
And
the
typically, sometimes it's what highlights to you, what other people don't see. Like somebody, they keep walking past the piece of tissue on the floor, but you recognize it's like whatever highlights to you many times is that space you need to be in. And like you said, then you pray about that thing for God to give you strategies on how to implement, gain the allies,
gain the allies.
and prepare. God will give you strategy on how to prepare your solution.
Exactly. Martina?
And that was a part of what I was going to say too, is that recognizing, like, after us recognizing the reality, that after that we go to, when we see the gap, the natural gaps, the natural inequality, when we see the differences, that we become a bridge to close the gap. And we, seek to find, what ways can I be a filler of that gap? What ways can I bridge the divide? And to keep your eyes focused in on, and your ears focused in on what you've been called to do, what you've been positioned to do. Go serve well in that position, and know that there will be a ripple effect. Even if you don't see it immediately, just continue to work in that cause. So be the bridge.
Be the bridge. Be the bridge. That is so great. Just as a reminder of April's microwave moment, is to be the solution. You are the solution. And Martina, fill the gap. You are the bridge to fill that gap. And how do you fill that gap? You gain allies for your cause. Gain allies for your cause. You acknowledge your role in the cause as a leader, because we all are leaders as individuals. And then you prepare for your solution and you work your solution. We just don't think about the solutions and keep them right here in our mind. We have to work those solutions. And so as we recognize African Americans' cultural experiences, we have to understand our role in this fight, and we will win and press towards the mark of a higher calling. And so thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. And we have more episodes on this topic. And so tune in week to week, that we will have great meals here at the table, that you can come and you can sit right here at the table and be a part of the conversation. Thank you all so much for being a part of Table Talks. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Mm-hmm.